This session is called SDG as easy as 1, 2, 3. If you don't have the Jackson 5 song in your head now, you probably will when I sing SDG as easy as 1, 2, 3. Yeah, okay, there you go. And it is something that people find a little bit intimidating, perhaps. And I want to go on and talk a bit more about this now. And I want to give you some ideas how to get these SDGs into your classes. Now, as a teacher, I love the SDGs. I find them incredibly useful. As an activist, looking at the SDGs and the government's action towards them, I'm not sure how hard governments are working, but as a teacher, I love them because they're colorful and eye-opening and just so incredibly useful to our students, to us as teachers as well. And there are so many materials out there to help us with these fantastic ideas. So a little bit about me. I like flags. I'm a vexillologist. If there's anybody here from the Marshall Islands, that's my favorite flag. I'm a big fan of funky secondhand shirts. As you can see, here's the second one on my rail there. I do like funky shirts. Oh, and I created Renewable English, which we'll hear more about soon. But at the moment in the second series, we're actually going through one by one each of the Sustainable Development Goals. So what are the Sustainable Development Goals? I'm sure you've seen these before. I'll call them SDGs from now on, because otherwise it will take half an hour to say everything. So they are the 17 goals created by the United Nations, the governments of the United Nations, and they refer to them as a blueprint to achieve a better, more sustainable future for all. So there are lots of ideas and ideals of ways we can improve the entire planet. You know, we can break them down individually and we can look at them on our own personal level, but there is also a way that we can look at them on a global scale, and that is the aim, to create a better Earth for now and for the future. So I'm going to ask you a question. Now, feel free to put it in the chat box, but I have also set up a poll over on Instagram. So if you want to jump over there and answer on the poll, that would be great. But do you use the SDGs in your lessons? And do you think they should be a part of the curriculum? Now, at the end of the session, I'll show you the results of what we have. Feel free to answer that one there. But I want you to type in there, yes, if you use them. Yes, yes, if you think they should be a part of the curriculum. Excellent. Lovely. Fantastic. I'm glad that, so no, you don't use them now, but you think there should be. I'm seeing lots of yeses here, which is making me incredibly happy right now. Nobody has said they shouldn't be part of the curriculum, which is really, really good. It's your first time hearing about them. Oh, fantastic. Well, there's so much information about them, and they are so colorful and useful to have in your classroom. But using them and connecting them to your sessions, your lessons, is something we're going to talk about today, and we'll have some great ideas on how to do them. It's great to see some of you who haven't heard about them and you're thinking about using them now. So let's continue with this. This is how I like to look at them. This came from what's the capital of Sweden? It's completely gone out of my head, and I love them. The Stockholm Resilience. This is where it came from, where they looked at the different Sustainable Development Goals, and they broke them down into the biosphere, so the Earth in general, society, and then the economy as well. Now, a lot of them are interconnected. You know, when you look at these and you look at no poverty and zero hunger, how you can't connect the two together, it's impossible, you know, and you're looking at climate action and responsible consumption and production. They're interlinked. And so many of these sustainable development goals are interlinked. They're clicked together in a way that it's impossible to avoid putting them all together. Now, I know that often we try and look at them individually, but looking at them all together and solving these problems, as Anna mentioned before, we can do them on a scale where they're all together. So, SDGs in education. The SDGs are key to education. I'm going to have to say right now, I disagree with that statement. I don't believe the SDGs are key to education. What I believe is education is the key to the SDGs. I think we need to learn to be able to go towards the SDGs. We need to teach to be able to work towards the SDGs. The way we teach our students, the way we prepare our students for the world, to help them become kinder, more inclusive, more thoughtful individuals, so they think more critically about these ideas. We can go nowhere, but it's not about cramming the SDGs into education. It's about getting our education towards these SDGs, getting our classes and our learning to focus towards them, rather than thinking, oh, well, I've got this poster, so I guess I should do something about it, and maybe I can squeeze it into a lesson here or there. And Elnaz has said teachers can play a crucial role. Teachers are amplifiers for everything. So what we can say can go to 30, 100, 200 students. You know, in that one moment, you can get this across to all of these different people. So if you can impress your passion and your ideals to these ideas of sustainable development goals, then you can help your students realize their potential. And as somebody said there, without education, there are no SDGs. We can't just have these targets and hope to reach these targets without showing our students what to do. Michael has said about the multiplier effect. It is so true. And now I've found with my lessons and with Renewable English and with these ideas, when I bring them into the classroom, I bring them to the students, I bring them to the teachers, but it filters on. It filters on, and it moves it to their parents, you know, it moves it to their friends. And this idea of no poverty, you know, we look at it, and often we look at it on a global scale, and we kind of disconnect from the local. Now, with all of these SDGs, we need to take them on a local scale as well as the global scale. It is a great way to open our students' eyes to these problems the world over. But poverty and hunger aren't things that are only in the developing world. They aren't only in the global south. They're also in the countries that we live in. You know, we're all here. We all have internet access. We're all able to look at this this presentation, be part of this incredible festival. But there are people within our own countries that aren't able to do this. So it's also about looking within oneself and the area around you to see what a difference we can make. So why do we teach them? The benefits to learners. Now, there are so many benefits that we can have to learners. All of them are interlinked. So for a start, when you're talking about the SDGs, it doesn't only have to be in your English classes. It can be in English, history, maths, geography, any of the social sciences, science. You know, you can look at all of these different topics in all of these different areas. People say, but they're not really relevant to maths. Well, they can be. You can make it relevant to maths. There are so many statistics involved in there as well. So these benefits are incredible. critical thinking that we talk about so often. You know, when you give the students these problems, when you give the students these world issues, these global issues, they can debate them together and they can take it on to the next level and they can think about them and come up with their own conclusions. And also empowerment. You know, when you give these ideas to students, to teenagers, you're giving them the power to make a difference. It's something that I've seen being so powerful with the youth movement. When you can see these young activists, you see them speaking on Instagram, you see them with this confidence, this belief in themselves that they are doing the right thing. And if you can instill this in your learners, you're going to create wonderful humans and wonderful adults. Benefits for schools, you know, there are boxes to tick if you're teaching these things. Now, if you're doing it properly, then those boxes can be ticked for a start, but also it reinforces diversity within your schools. It reinforces these ideas. It gives valuable mechanisms to an entire school as opposed to just the individual students. And it can encourage global learning. There are so many e-twinning activities that you can have where schools can connect with other people from across the globe, and you can all link doing that. And then benefits to the wider world. Now, I think these are obvious. You know, it can nurture these strong relationships within different countries, but also you're making a difference in your community. You're making a difference to the wider world in aiming towards these sustainable development goals, in trying to make a difference in all of these different areas. So, the big question, how do we teach them? We identify them, we analyze them, and we understand them. The first step, of course, you have to identify them. Now, something I've had from a lot of teachers that I work with during the course that I'm doing, and just in general when I've spoken in webinars, Dorota, I love e-twinning too, it's fantastic. A lot of people say, you know, I don't really know enough about it. It's not something that I'm not too confident in teaching it. This is something you can learn along with your students. You know, Seneca said, while we teach, we learn. Now, I know I've learned a lot about English grammar in my years as an English teacher. And certainly with the Sustainable Development Goals, with my green thinking, I've grown so much with my teaching. But I've also, and something Anna mentioned previously as well, in listening to your students, we forget that our students are so aware nowadays. They have all of the information in the world right here at their fingertips, and they are so ready to learn about these different things. So working with our students towards these goals and improving ourselves along the way can really make a huge difference. So here, I've taken this from Get Involved, just to have a quick look at it. Now, identify is the first step for me. So you're showing them what they are. Now, I just took a page at random from this book. You know, I skipped through and I was like, bam, I'm going to take that page for absolutely no reason. And I could do it with any one of these books here. You can open the book and you can just start to identify. So how can travel help us learn about the world? Well, the first one I could think of was no poverty. When we travel, we go to other places, we can see about these different issues. We can see about how poverty affects different countries and different places in different ways. You know, so this is getting your students to think critically about the materials. You can simply give them the title and they can think about it in that way. What else? Gender equality. How are different cultures, how different ideas in different countries, how do they view gender equality? And how are these things changing throughout society? Good health and well-being. When you travel again, you can see other cultures and how they how healthy each country is, how good the food is there. For example, if you came to Sevilla, a beautiful city here in the south of Spain, if you came here, you would see that people are cycling everywhere. There are cycle lanes all over the place, and you can see so many people take their bike to get to work because of this fantastic infrastructure. Climate action, how you travel, the way you travel, when you get to these places, looking at the way these different countries are dealing with the climate crisis. All of these different options are so important when you're learning about the world. You know, you can look at how Liverpool is dealing with it. You can look at how Paris is dealing with the climate crisis. You can look at all of these different countries, the different ideas of how they are tackling the climate crisis, and not just from your own individualistic point of view, from where you are from or from what you've been told. Again, reduced inequalities, something that you can only learn by finding out about other places. You can't just learn that from an insular place. If I was looking at reduced inequalities from this small village in Andalusia in Spain, I wouldn't see a huge amount. I'd see a few murals in the town that have been painted. But where are we making steps? What are we changing? Now, we can learn this by traveling. Life below water. When we go to different countries, when we go to different places, we can see how we affect the waterways. You can have a look, that image there, straight away, there's a picture of the Mersey. You can look at that. How do you think a river in the middle of a city is affected? What do you think the life is like below that water? How clean do you think it really is? I'll be honest, I'm not exactly sure it'll be particularly clean. But also, what kind of impact have single-use plastics had on these different countries, these different ideas? Responsible consumption and production. When you're traveling, think about when you go into the hotels, think about the buffet breakfast. Is that responsible, or is that an awful lot of waste as well? Think about the packaging in the different shops. You can go to there are some places in some countries that have entire secondhand shops, or entire waste-free areas, and swap shops and stuff like that. Life on land, just as important as life below water. Again, travel is affected by this, and you can see it in every single place that you go. So as you can see from this, and I completely forgot to mention quality education. I just skipped straight past it, and I don't know why, because that's what we're here to talk about as well. Seeing how everybody is educated in these different countries. And you can do this with the global goals, and you can look at every page of the book and have that critical thinking moment and get your students thinking about it. And it can be a routine in your class. It can be 5, 6, 7 minutes. It doesn't have to be, today we're learning about the Sustainable Development Goals. It can just be, bam, it's there. Look at this, look at that, and you have all your answers right there for you. Now, analyze. So you can see here, we're talking about, again, another wonderful activity from Get Involved. And we need to take it to the next level now. So we need to do a bit of research into this. Now, you can do a deep dive. Do girls have more to do? Do girls have to do more jobs at home? Now, this can be relevant to any country that you're living in. I know that gender stereotypes, they are similar in lots of places, but there's also huge differences as well. You can do a deep dive into this. This can be a project for your students to look at and research, and you can do it in the moment in the classroom. Breakout investigations. This can be related to your deep dive. If you're teaching online, you can send your students off in breakout rooms to go and research this. Obviously, you can do this in the classroom as well. Send them off individually. If you use devices in the classroom, even better, even easier for students to get their hands on. and find your passion. Get your students to find out what they really care about. What do your students really care about in the classroom? You know, we can't solve all of these goals all at once. You know, we need to have a way of finding our own passion. So help your students find their passion. Get them to look for one of the goals, for that to be their target. And you can see here that this page has got at least 8 different SDGs on it as well. Discuss, rank them, you know, put them in order of importance for each individual task. So this one here, is this more about gender equality? Is it more about quality education? Is it more about no poverty? Get your students to rank the importance of which each unit is about. Get them to analyze each one. Link them together. You know, how is gender equality and quality education, how are they linked in this? You know, well, because in some countries, girls don't have the opportunity to go to school, so therefore they don't have the same opportunities afterwards in work. And then also be critical of the SDGs. They're wonderful ideas, they're amazing, but when you look into them, perhaps governments on a global scale aren't doing quite enough. So for me, that's the analyze section. Now, understand is the kind of final level, the final part of this. Hi there, Volkan. Lovely to see you here. Understand is the final part where, you know, you've worked on them, you've looked at them, you know these different ideas. There are individual and group projects you can do. Now, you can do these, obviously, as I say, together or alone. A poster or a short video campaign. Get students to choose one of the SDGs and create a poster about it. Or, by all means, make a short video about it, describing what the SDG is and how each of their classmates can make a difference with that SDG. Then stick them all up around the school, or stick them up in your academy, or post them on your blog and have them there. And by all means, if you do this, feel free to send them to me at Renewable English. I'll gladly share them on Students' Corner. Have an art exhibition. So particularly for responsible consumption and production, you can bring in a whole bunch of single-use plastics and turn them into art. You can be creative with them. You can get students using these materials, and in that way promote the different SDGs. That can promote climate action, it can promote life on land, it can promote life underwater, and have an SDG art exhibition. Letters to decision makers. Very exactly. Brilliant, Dorota. Letters to decision makers. Get students to find a goal and write to their local MP or write to their European MP and to ask for action. Get your students involved with the action. An awareness raising challenge. See how many people can raise awareness of an SDG to other people. You know, you can do this on social media. You can get them to, you know, you can create a hashtag that they use, and you can see how many likes each one of them gets and how many reshares each one of them gets. And that way you're branching out to beyond just the classroom and across the globe. The most colourful meal is one I actually did the other day. So I go to my daughter's allotment at school, and we all made a salad from the lettuce that we picked, and we had a challenge of who could make the most colourful meal, which is really good for good health because it encourages eating lots of vegetables. And of course, you're also talking about responsible production and consumption because you're taking things from where you're from. And then finally, create a sustainable business like Strudels here, which is all about straws that they use, and they're made out of pasta. So you can get your students to come up with their own idea, have them work together, have them on that kind of idea, and create their own sustainable business, and do like a dragon's den idea at the end where they all present their ideas to the group. And yeah, those in a nutshell are the different ideas. Now, obviously, if you have any issues or any questions, please do get in touch. But here are the main takeaways from today. The SDGs can be found in every lesson. Give students the tools to make or form their own opinions, not to make form, obviously. And the SDGs aren't the answer, but they do provide some great questions. Now let's double check to see if anybody has answered this here. At the moment, we're on 50-50 for people who have used the SDGs in their lessons, and 100% of people believe that they should be a part of the curriculum, which is amazing. Now, I would like to revisit the competition that we talked about earlier. I'd like to come back to this very briefly. You can find it here, the Get Involved competition. I believe the link can be posted into the chat box there. And there are some amazing prizes, and it's all about solving these issues, solving these problems, and getting to the bottom of the climate crisis. There are some amazing prizes in there. There are some Macmillan education books. There's a year's subscription to One Stop English. And of course, the star prize, he says, there'll be some workshops that I'll be giving to the winning school. So please, everybody get involved with this wonderful competition. I just love the name of that book. It's so good. So everybody get involved with that. Thank you all so much for listening. As you can see there are lots of ways you can get in touch with me. Through the social media, you can go to the website as well. And of course, you can feel free to send me an email. Now, I believe I have finished about 2 minutes early to give you plenty of space there to ask some questions. I think I might have gone a bit too fast there and should have spent more time on the activities, which I will do next time, but I panicked when I saw the clock. So super. Are there any questions? Ask me some questions.
Yeah, everyone, feel free to ask more questions in the Q&A so we can check out. Before that, I just want to have a look at the wedding cake of the SDGs. That's my first time to saw that picture. I think it's really interesting to see how it works together.
Okay, I'll go back to that one then.
Yeah.
We're just going backwards through the session. So I'm going to do like, I'm imagining I'm rewinding. And this is the SDG wedding cake.
Yes. So it shows like how the different goals are interrelated with each other, and also which like area of the SDGs are, right?
Exactly. So, you know, you can break it down into these different areas. This is a very kind of basic breaking down of the different areas, obviously, because, you know, responsible consumption and production obviously has a lot to do with all three of these areas, but, you know, it's put there in the economy section. So I just find this a really useful way, particularly when I started learning about
SDGs.
the SDGs and, you know, and putting them into my classes. I found this incredibly helpful for me, you know, when I was, let's say I was talking about, a lesson that was based on future jobs, for example. I'd look at the economy section, I'd look at those ones and think they're more likely to be involved in this class. You know, and the SDGs have been around now for over 7 years. So we're almost halfway through the targets. I'm not going to mention how close we are to achieving them, but they are such a great tool to use in your classes to help raise awareness about all of these different ideas. And that thing of getting a student to find their passion, to get in there and look for that one thing that they really love and they can really work towards. The SDGs can really help that.
Yes, I think it should be a good inspiration to students and to sparkle their passion. And we have a teacher asking about how can you tackle or link SDGs if the materials they're using are not enough? Do you have any like resources or links or websites to share with teachers about SDGs?
There are so many available. I mean, the UN website has a whole load of stuff on it already. There's a load of materials and ideas within the UN website. Of course, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to say it because, you know, I'd be silly if I didn't. Renewableenglish.com. I'm just putting it in the chat box there. It's a fantastic website, which is based around the SDGs. There are classes in there from SDG 1 to 8 already recorded, and every other Thursday, so next Thursday, there are live lessons that you can get on YouTube. So please do feel free to go there. ELT Footprint has loads of ideas. And a simple Google subject to climate as well is a great one. I could just sit here listing websites for half an hour, I guess, but they're so readily available. There's so many materials. And the great one on the SDG website, it does, each one has an infographic. Catherine is a gem. You're absolutely right, Benjamin Carter. There's an infographic on there, and you can see that, and it really kind of puts it all to light, and it summarizes it beautifully. And of course, renewable English.
Yes, yeah, teachers, yeah, you hear that, right? So go and check out the resources on these websites and yeah, find something useful for your classroom. And there's another question from the same teacher, Luisto. Sorry about my poor pronunciation. So Luisto asked, if the situation is modular home learning, how can parents like tackle or introduce like SDGs to their kids?
That is a brilliant idea. I mean, if you are connected to the teachers as well, if it is like home learning, again, look at each individual subject that you're doing. So, you know, when particularly during the pandemic, I had my daughter here at home, and I would look at what the school had sent us and see how that can connect to it. And again, it's not all about again, with environmental education as well, it's not about separating it. It's not about taking it to one side and saying, oh, look, you know, here's maths, here's the SDGs. It's about integrating them together, you know, and finding ways to put them all, have them all at the same time, rather than saying, like, today we're doing SDGs, tomorrow we're doing quadratic equations. You know, it's a way of, you know, or particularly with history as well. People look back at history and before the SDGs, okay, great, it was before the SDGs, but how did they deal with these situations in the past? How else can we, you know, get through this situation? And I obviously forgot to mention the Macmillan ESDC website, which is brilliant and fantastic and has loads of materials too.